On Wednesday, Arizona Republican gubernatorial nominee Kari Lake held a campaign rally with Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin. Lake got right to it, slamming her Democratic opponent Katie Hobbs, accusing her of being a coward and a racist. Lake has taken a fierce line of attack against Hobbs, who has refused to debate her, and accused Hobbs of an insulting answer about Latinos in a recent interview. Lake also blasted Hobbs over past racial discrimination cases. Lake, a former local news anchor, has become a conservative star in the last few months. Backed by Trump and considered a potential 2024 running mate, Lake has taken the lead in multiple polls and could become a national Republican figure should she win her election.
This is fantastic. How are you doing this morning? Wow. Oh, I don't think this town is liberal. There's no way. This town is common sense and ready for a change. Who's ready for a change in Arizona? Garrett, thank you so much. It's always good to see Garrett in the flesh instead of just listening to him on the radio. And thank you for coming out this morning. I know we Republicans work, and so this probably required you to take a little time off of work. So thank you if you've come in. I see some of you brought the babies out, probably dropped the kids off at school, and you are here because you care so deeply about Arizona. And you're ready to elect someone who's going to bring common sense policy, right? Well, and many of you might have been here for our last trip down, which was our Ask Me Anything tour, where we're taking the job interview on the road because I'm running against a coward who won't show up for the job interview. Exactly. Did you see, was it about a week ago, she finally showed up on a forum stage? They gave her a bunch of, how about we vote her out? Let's vote her out. They gave her a bunch of softball questions. One of them was, can you name one good thing about the Latino community? And she sat there for a minute and a half, like a deer in headlights, could not come up with one good thing about the Latino community, which comprises 1/3 of Arizona. It was one of those moments where you just were stunned. And she wants to be our governor. Think about that. No way. We will not have a coward. We will not have a racist, a twice convicted racist who's cost the taxpayers nearly $3 million because of her racial and sexual discrimination. I think you all, I would like to think that you know about that story, but unfortunately the fake news never covers it. Now imagine if the tables were turned and that was my history. They would be covering it every single day. And so we're not going to elect a racist and a coward like Katie Hobbs. We're going to make sure that we get it right. We're going to go to the polling places on the 8th, and we are going to mark Republican, Republican, Republican right down the ballot. Because we want common sense ideas that will solve our problems. We want our border to be secure. We want to take back control from the cartels that have operational control right now. And we want to stop the flow of the most dangerous drug that we've ever seen in this country. And it's all coming into Arizona, and we've had it. We're no longer going to be the pipeline for fentanyl, which is coming in and poisoning this country. I was out last night, and one of the reporters, I actually think we're training, by the way, the fake news, how to be journalists, because last night we did a press gaggle at an event. We had Tulsi Gabbard here, the most famous independent, and we did a press gaggle, and not one of them asked a stupid question. Not one of them asked a leading question. Not one of them pushed their agenda. So I think we are making an impact with our media. They're finally realizing that we want some honest journalists. So hopefully today they'll mind themselves as well. But one of the people asked last night, they said, what are we supposed to do? We moms and dads, we're getting ready to go trick-or-treating, and now we've got the fentanyl pouring in, and it looks like candy. How do we protect our kids? And it's sad that we even have to ask questions like that. It's sad that our federal government has allowed this border to be wide open, allow criminals to come in, allow drugs to pour in, and they've done nothing about it. And that's why we have to elect a governor who's going to secure that border starting on day one when we declare an invasion on our border. And I promise you, by next Halloween, you're not going to have to worry about that problem because we're going to send a loud and clear message to the Mexican drug cartels and the smuggling cartels that we are closed for business for them for good. And I was really excited yesterday. I got to tour a public school that has embraced vocational education for our kids. I think all of you know I've been pushing for that really hard. Because I talk to industry leaders every day and business leaders, they say, Kari, we have lots of good jobs, and they pay well, and they offer benefits, but we don't have the people to do the jobs. And I want to start getting our kids ready right out of high school for those jobs. I want to see a show of hands, and I know we're going to age ourselves. How many of you remember when we used to do vocational and trade skill training in high school? All right, that means we have an old crowd here, including me. We need to get back to that. What's the purpose of educating our kids? It's not to indoctrinate them. It's not to turn them into socialists. It's not to confuse them about their gender. The purpose of educating our children is to prepare them for the real world. So they're resourceful. So they're ready to take on their own life, and they can eventually afford to live in this economy, right? So we're going to bring back after 10th grade dual track education. After 10th grade, you decide if you want to take that college route and go to the 4-year college. If so, great. But if you don't want to do that, then we're going to bring trade skill training, vocational training, and career certification into our high schools so our kids can get out and get real jobs. I toured a school yesterday in Phoenix where they have embraced that. They've embraced the competition, and they are turning out great kids who are ready for the real world, and they're getting out of high school and taking on some great jobs. So we're going to expand that across Arizona so that our kids and grandkids can get those jobs. How many of you in this room, and I know a few, more than a few of you because I'm feeling it, and I'm not retired yet, are looking at your retirement savings, and it's like a scary Halloween movie. I just talked to my neighbor. He said, I am so concerned how I'm going to make it through my retirement. He's on the front end of his retirement. He said 1/3 of his retirement savings has dried up under Joe Biden. We can't continue along these lines. And until we can vote that bumbling fool out of the White House, we got to have a governor who's going to stand up for us. And that's why last week we unveiled our plan. It truly is a plan to help fight the inflation that Joe Biden has created by returning $500 million of your hard-earned money back to you. We're going to reduce and get rid of the grocery tax and the rental tax. So if you pay rent, you won't have to pay tax on that. Somebody said, well, this isn't going to help every single Arizona. It's going to help a lot of Arizonans. We're going to send $500 million back into your pockets, and that's just the start. We're going to work every single year to cut taxes. And you know why we're going to do that? Because one of my heroes, Ronald Reagan, did precisely that. When he was handed a terrible economy under Jimmy Carter, and it was thrown into his lap, he said, we're not going to raise taxes. That's what the Democrats want to do, raise taxes. We're going to lower taxes. He took a situation where we had stagflation, it was just a constant increase in inflation that was not going away, and he gave us tax relief, and that is what helped bring down the inflation and really saved us back in the 1980s. So we're going to do that here in Arizona. We're going to lower taxes every single year. If we have a surplus, that means we're taking too much of your money, and we're not going to do that anymore. And then we're going to capitalize on some of the bad leadership we're seeing in these blue states. I know Governor Youngkin, was just talking to him backstage. He's amazing, by the way. I can't wait till you get to meet him. And he was in Oregon last night, and he said the people in these blue states are so ready for a change. But I'll tell you, we can capitalize by the asinine policies that Governor Newsom has put in place in California. Honestly, I mean, yeah, I know you're thinking, oh, California, please no. But a lot of these companies want to flee these blue states, and they want to set up shop in a common sense red state. And they're going to be looking at Arizona, let me tell you that. And we want them to come here. As these companies relocate here, that brings us more revenue, and that means we can lower taxes even more, make it easier for you to keep the hard-earned money that you earn. And so I ask you this. These companies that want to relocate, they're fleeing Illinois, they're fleeing Washington State, Oregon, they're fleeing California, and they want to relocate to a state like Texas or Arizona or Florida. Do you think for 1 minute that Katie Hobbs will be a good ambassador for Arizona and bringing jobs here? Can you imagine her going toe-to-toe with the likes of a Governor Youngkin or a Governor DeSantis as she tries to battle to bring companies here? I mean, they won't even give us a look. They will not even give us a look. We will see California-like policies in Arizona under a Katie Hobbs. We already know that when she was in the Senate, she voted against a border wall. She voted against a virtual border wall. She voted against the border task force that was trying to keep us safe. She even voted against our ability to ask the federal government to recoup some of the costs we pay by having a wide open border. So we got to make sure, obviously if you're here, you're not voting for her, but we got to make sure our friends don't vote for her. And so I have an ask for you that you've shown up, and I appreciate that so much. And I know some of you, how many of you have been to one of our events before? Good, we got some repeat friends. Thank you so much. I'm asking that we do something a little more challenging, that we reach out to friends and contacts in our phone, friends who maybe haven't talked to for a while, who are independent, maybe they're Democrat, and maybe 3 years ago you would have never broached politics with them at all because you're like, no way, they're Democrat. I have a feeling our Democrat friends are rethinking their choices right now. Now, you got to be gentle. Don't go in and say, I told you so, because that's not going to work. We need to start making contact with our Democrat friends and just say, hey, I know things aren't going well. I know if I'm struggling, that probably means you're struggling. Have you thought about voting different? Have you thought about looking at some of the policies that Kari Lake and the other Republicans are putting forth to help Arizona? Because I'm a big believer, and if you've heard me on Garrett's show, our policies are good for all Arizonans. You don't have to have an R behind your name, even though I love you if you do. You don't have to be a Republican to want a secure border. Every Democrat, I think, wants a secure border as well, except for Katie Hobbs. She wants it wide open. I think every Democrat who has children wants to make sure that fentanyl doesn't get into their children's hands. I think they want to make sure every Democrat and Independent and Republican wants to be able to, when they get home from work, hop on their bike, take a bike ride around the neighborhood without worrying about being the victim of a crime. And so I think we can try to come together and get people to vote Republican, because the new Republican Party is the party of common sense, right? Now, I am so excited. I've watched Glenn Youngkin from afar. I watched as he has a similar story. He walked away from his career and said, our state is in trouble. I need to run for office. I love seeing people in politics who are true citizens stepping forward like our founding fathers envisioned and doing something to help. And that's what you're going to find with Glenn Youngkin. He is an amazing man. He's tall, by the way. I just gave him a hug. I said, I had no idea you were so tall. And he's got his red vest on, okay? He's showing up in his red vest. He may not need it all day. It's going to get hot here. But what I love about him is that he feels the same way. It's about coming up with common sense. Oh, do we have any medical help? We need a doctor. Is there a doctor in the house? We need a doctor. Can we get somebody to call 911, guys? Hang on, guys. If we have a doctor in the house, or if we can have somebody call 911. Sorry, guys. We've got a little emergency here. We're going to make a clearing here, and we're going to help this lady. Let me get back. Okay, well, everybody, please just take a moment and say a prayer for this lady. I think that she's had a little health issue, and we're going to get her help. We've got 911. We've called them, and they're on the way. So we're just going to say a prayer right now that she's okay. God, Heavenly Father, please help our friend who was just here, and we know that I had a little health problem, and please help the medical professionals who show up to help her. We want to make sure that she's healthy and that she's okay, and we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. I know it's hard to stand out here for a long time, and you've been here for a long time, so we're going to get that lady some help. But anyway, I want to tell you a little bit more about Glenn Youngkin. He is a total rock star. He came into office, and he started doing things quickly, and that's what we need from our governors. We saw that with President Trump. He made a lot of promises. Everyone said there's no way he's going to keep those promises. And what did he do on day one? He started working on his to-do list. And that's what you're going to get with me. And that's why the fake news has been attacking me for an entire year, for 506 days, because they know that I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. And we, the people, will no longer put up with politicians who say one thing and do the other. So it is such an honor to have one of the great governors in this entire country joining us here in Arizona. Can you please give a loud, warm welcome to Governor Glenn Youngkin?